Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, my boy MH2 is starting to heat up.
And the Falcons, of course, have to trim the roster down to 53 by 4 p.m. tomorrow. But they made a significant trim, sort of, this past weekend from the Smith Terry Fontenot regime. Are you concerned?
And last but not least, and for the culture, thank you for 27 years. Now here's your goodie bag. It's all coming up next. ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. ATL Day Ones is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And also, we want to let you know that this episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. And coming up in 10 minutes, y'all know they cut him, right? But what does that actually mean for this regime as far as drafting? We'll talk about that. But first, I have to get into the Atlanta Braves. They kicked the crap out of the San Francisco Giants. Obviously, you lose yesterday. That's all good. But they win the series. And one thing, T, that I've noticed, and I'm really starting to get a little excited. You know how I get down with my guy, MH2, Michael Harris, for those, my people ain't done with it. This dude is starting to really heat up. He's been moved into that 2-hole, T, and he looks like he's finally starting to settle in as a nice replacement for Ozzy Albies until he comes back.
Yeah, I saw something that kind of made me smile, kind of made me chuckle all at the same time. And it was the quote was, "Number 9 hitter on best offense in baseball remains underrated." And so I chuckled because I was like, that's about right. Because
yeah.
We don't talk about Michael Harris II enough, because he's kind of like the underrated, kind of unnamed official superstar, plug-in star, whatever you want to call him. So when I saw that, it just kind of made me smile. I think I was telling you about it pre-briefing for the show. Like, this is a guy, if you look across the last 7 days, 4 runs, 6 hits in 27 at-bats. That's pretty darn good, right? And of those 27, okay, he struck out 6 times, and he had 4 RBI. I think that's where the importance is, the consistency, right? And that that you're going to have quality bats. And that's something that Brian Snitker said as well, that he appreciates what MH2 has been able to do in that two-hole minus Ozzy Albies and still getting it done in the outfield. You haven't seen any drop off there. And, we talk about all the time how we need all 3 cylinders to the Braves to operate on all 3. So they've been solid on defense. He has been. They've been solid, of course, at the mound. I know we'll talk about that in a minute. And also, of course, at the plate. But yeah, for him to be effective in 2 out of those 3, and really, I'll say even 3, because last week, and I think it was a couple series ago, it was Spencer Strider and MH2. And that was that masterful game where Spencer Strider had the 6 strikeouts and Michael Harris finishes the game, 11, excuse me. He finishes the game with a home run. And they both got to ask the question. And they both pretty much answered, I feed off of him. I feed off of him. So, yeah, I love that Michael Harris II is a big part of why the Braves have been able to, after that swoon right off the All-Star break, have been able to get right back on stride.
Yeah, no doubt. No pun intended, right? But I think that one of the things, though, that I really like about Michael Harris is like how he plays the game, right? He plays it in a fun manner, like out there smiling. And the thing about him being in that 2-hole, which is really cool too, because I would like to see him do more of, once he gets on base, go ahead and, I think you should have the green light just like Ronnie. You know what I'm saying? Because he has that speed. And like in this, in this speed, in this series, he had 923 OPS. So he was batting 308. So those are some of the things that, hey, we need you to get on base as well. like right behind nephew Ronnie. And we need you to start stealing those bases, being aggressive as well, because you have that speed, to be able to do so. So when you think about him being in that comfort zone and doing what he likes to do, because, I think he has 12 home runs right now. Like, it's possible that, he can get that 2020 going on situation. So I think that, if he can get into that mold and get into that mindset while he's sitting up in there 2-hole, I think this would be really good for the Braves offense going forward.
Especially because Austin Riley, of course, has started to heat up on the backside of
has 30 home runs as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, come on.
and Matt Olson just stays at the top of the conversation about home runs. So you're right. If Ronald Acuna Jr., and I know he's a little bit quiet right now, but we believe he'll get back on track as well. But if he gets back on track, not even home runs, but like you said, if he just gets on base, and then Michael Harris can get on base and advance Acuna Jr. as the runner, I like the Braves' chances to be able to get behind either Riley or Olson and make something happen from what the 1-hole and the 2-hole end up doing, right? So that's kind of what I like to see as well from him. Yeah, like you said, being a little bit more aggressive, especially now that, not to say his confidence waned a whole heck of a lot, but I'm sure there were some questions he even had of himself in the first half of the season. But yeah, to be able to see the leadoff hitter potentially get on base, then see the guy in the 2-hole potentially get off base, and two guys that can sprint, right? And be able to steal you, and no pun intended there, but basically get you a free base, then that really does put 3 and 4 in position to be able to do something big.
Yeah, that's why Matt Olson is leading the league in RBIs at this point. You got people who can get on base and they can move around, when you don't have to worry about them trying to score from first instead of scoring from second base, because, hey, they've already swiped that bad boy. So I think that's just something to definitely keep an eye on. But I think you bring us another interesting point about this pitching staff, because we talked about our concerns consistently on this show. Yes. And to be able to see Spencer Strider and Max Fried go out there and just have some great outings, you got to start thinking like, okay, like now, like you said, that swoon they had after the All-Star break, everybody, it seemed like everybody was struggling at some point, but now everything is starting to look like it's about to starting to fall in place.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think you are more comfortable and confident based on Spencer Strider having another stellar outing, and even Max Fried ending up with a stellar outing. It was a little bit shaky, but that's okay. As long as you can battle your way out of that, that's fine, especially if the bats are supporting you to battle your way out of that. So no, I agree with you. I think one of the good things, and especially taking nothing away from them starting a series against the Rockies tonight and that 3-game set, because you never want to overlook a team. But on the same token, you've got a number of reasons why you need that starting pitching staff to pick up things along with some of the bats like Acuna Jr., because you've got to face the Dodgers. And you got to face the Dodgers in LA. And you got to face the Dodgers team where Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman are surging. Some even say Mookie Betts has surged past Ronald Acuna Jr. in the MVP race in the National League.
Crap. Yeah.
But, it's one of those things where, hey, we say it's crappy, but Acuna Jr. might say it's motivation. And I like the fact that the Braves pitching staff is doing what it's able to do. Hopefully they'll get it done in Colorado, and Jarvis, hopefully efficiently in Colorado, so that they can be well rested for a showdown in LA.
Absolutely, because we know it's coming. Like, the Dodgers are coming. The Braves are going to face the Dodgers in the playoffs. Like, there's no doubt about it. Again. And to be honest with you, they're going to have to go through them. Like, that's just how it is. When you get a guy like an MVP type caliber player and Freddie Freeman, you add that to that lineup, that's exactly what you're going to get. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. So I hope you guys are looking forward to it as well. Another thing y'all need to be looking forward to is going to FanDuel.com, because it is the #1 sports book in America. Guess what, folks? You can get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel right now, because new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. Yes, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. And right now, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Y'all know the prices on YouTube and what the NFL Sunday Ticket is going for. you're going to get some money off right now. So I need you to go to FanDuel.com right now. It's the best time to go there because the app is safe, it's secure, it's super easy to use. You got to worry about anybody getting all your information. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on, LOCKEDON, and kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss because it's FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the National Football League.
Yes. So if you straighten your glasses or you get the contacts right or you got really good vision, then you'll notice that there's a missing piece across the O-line depth chart. The missing piece is Jalen Mayfield. And Jarvis, we talked about this ahead of the Thursday game, that unless he did something great, and then we reacted to it Friday, unless he had done something great in that game, he was probably not going to be on that final 53-man roster. And then Friday, we said we'd be shocked if he wasn't. Well, found out, of course, this weekend, the Falcons decided to move on from their third-round pick from the 2021 draft. And we know, of course, they moved on from Michael Walker as well. So they're showing you a consistency in, hey, if the player is not living up to the standard that we thought they could, and Frank Darby as well, if the player's not living up to the standard that we thought they would, regardless of what round they were selected in, and regardless of if they were selected in the Smith Fontenot regime or Fontenot Smith regime, we're going to move on if that's the most appropriate thing to do. So are you concerned that they cut ties with players who they've just drafted a couple years ago, or are you relieved that they're not lingering and they're making the smart move, moving on?
I'm gonna go with the latter. You know what I'm saying? Because when you think about what we're used to here in the previous regime and Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff, they would ride that thing out until they couldn't ride it anymore when it comes to the guys that they brought in, the guys that they drafted, because for whatever reason, ego. Hey, we know we were right. We know we saw something in this guy. We just got to make sure we develop him to a certain standpoint. And he's just taking a little bit longer than expected. Nah, like I like the fact that these guys are saying, you know what? We thought this guy can come in and do A, B, and C for us. I mean, he wasn't able to do any of them, you know. And also on top of that, the injuries. Like he had some knick-knack injuries and a back injury. That's not anything that's not significant, right? Because when you think about an offensive lineman being able to, you know, get into the right position and it drops and everything and kick stepping and all that, kick slide and all that stuff, those things are very important. Like that's a big part of, you know, what you're able to do or capable of. And not to say that that's an excuse for his bad play,
but just
But you know what I'm saying? It's something that they had to take into consideration as well when you think about like, okay, whether we should move on from this guy or not. Yeah. So when I look at this situation and look at that 2021 NFL draft, like as a whole, am I concerned? I wouldn't say so, because here's the thing. Like just looking through that draft, because I went through it last night, the entire draft class, because if you start from Avery Williams and Frank Darby, he's on the team. He's not on the team, which is okay. He's seventh round pick. You know, not too concerned. Avery Williams, you know, we knew that he was a guy that came in and was a solid contributor on special teams. Yes. That's what you ask for in those late round picks. And then you got Taquan Graham, a guy who can be a solid rotation.
Well, Avery, just to give Avery some credit too, last season when you needed him to be plugged in that running back core, he gave you some solid. Yeah, huge. He absolutely gave you some solid downs. Yeah. So he was one of those, Jarvis, where when he went down for injury and they said he's pretty much going to be done for the year, you really said, darn, because you knew him to be a utility player. So I agree with you on that one. Like, yes, understood for Frank Darby to go, but Avery Williams stays, but we're just disappointed that we won't be able to see him because, I agree. I think that was one of the better hits from their regime selection so far.
Yeah, you're talking about finding value in those late rounds like that. Yes, that's what you look for when you're talking about, hey, you know, they're going to miss on guys. Like, there's no general manager that's perfect. But when you start finding value later in those rounds, like Terry Fontenot did with Avery Williams, that you gotta give him kudos for that. And then Taquan Graham, I gotta give him kudos for that too, because everybody was sitting around like, who? You know, but he's gonna be a solid rotational guy for you.
Indeed.
You know, he had the injury last year, and before the injury, dude was looking like he's going to be a solid player for you. You know, Adi Ogundeji, he's out for the season. I, for one, believe that more than likely he was going to make this team because it was just from a number standpoint and plus a non-production standpoint too. So, right now though, T, it's pretty much all on Kyle Pitts and Richie Grant. when you think about it, you know, just going through the late round guys and then that top two. Those are the ones that you feel like you can't really miss on. Like that Kyle Pitts pick. Hopefully he's gonna be in. He's ready to go once the season gets rolling. And then we've seen some good return on Richie Grant so far as well.
Yeah, and oddly enough, no offense, Kyle Pitts, but so far Richie Grant is your jewel out of that draft. So because he just continues to trend up. Other than that little hiccup when he first came into the league and Dean Pease was like, "Yeah, learn the playbook."
Learn the playbook.
But
yeah,
he understood the assignment. He was like, "Oh, okay, learn the playbook."
Okay. My bad, coach.
Right. Okay, right. Because I think when you have that kind of raw talent and athleticism, the game has just come to you, right? And when you're a ball hawk, the game has just come to you. But when you hit the big time, the pros, everybody's good, if not great. So you and your talent and athleticism is equaled, if not bested, by everybody around you and everybody on the other side of the ball. So yes, your next piece is to become the guy who understands how to take the playbook and embrace it. And that way, when you see those other schemes on that other side, nobody can trick you because Dean Pease has gotten you ready. And in this case, Ryan Nielsen has gotten you ready. And Jarvis, I know sometimes it's just talk, but he did an interview with our guys, Andy and Randy. And it wasn't so much one specific thing he said. I listened to the entire interview and I said, boy, the guy's going to have a special year because he's one who's also excited about the fact that, hey, I get to play across from Jesse Bates and I get to play in a core with AJ Terrell. And hopefully if Jeff Okudah is able to get back maybe in the second quarter of the season, he gets him as well. So I think everything bodes well for maybe Richie Grant to be kind of the jewel so far as what we see in the preseason. But I got to admit, or ahead of the season, I got to admit, I agree with you. I hope that Kyle Pitts has the kind of year that makes us say those are two. Wouldn't you and I say Avery Williams, Kyle Pitts, Richie Grant? If you can get 3 out of 7 in the draft to work, I consider that to be a successful draft, period. Yep. And if Avery Williams comes back, you can call it 4 out of 7. You know, if he miraculously comes back this season, but even if he doesn't and he comes back next season, I think that you can call 4 out of 7 a good hit. Now, speaking of that, you know, Arthur Smith made an interesting move that a lot of people had commentary about. And Absolutely. He talked about it Thursday night, but he circled back to it, right? And that was a conversation about who he did and didn't play, of course, the starters. So this past weekend, of course, the conversation was around Desmond Ridder. People were curious about him having, you know, not a lot of reps, only 4 games last year. Why didn't you put him out in maybe for at least a couple series? And finally, Arthur Smith gave a little bit more intel on that this weekend.
Oh, let's just go back when he got here, from his first mini camp to now. I mean, there's been daily improvement. We feel very confident in him, as we do a lot of those guys. Very pleased with Des.
Yes. And I think that the confidence that he has, Jarvis, is something that we've heard consistently from OTAs, right? And it just continues to get stronger and stronger. And you got to listen to the guys around him as well. So when you hear the defense saying that they're seeing him able to make reads and go to his second or his third or his fourth receiver, to me, that's where it gets impressive. Richie Grant had comments about Dez and said he was 100% behind him. Grady Jarrett said the same thing. So it doesn't surprise me that Arthur Smith goes not just back to OTAs, not just back to what he saw in the last 4 games of last season, but even going back to what he's seen in his college career, which was 4 years, which is a little different for most players these days. So the trajectory, Arthur Smith feels like, has gone up, up, and up. And listening to Arthur Smith, I may not have liked it. It would have been nice to maybe see him and Kyle Pitts have a couple of connection points, but I understand.
For me, like, I get that aspect of it, but for me, like, there's a human being side, right? Like, and I think that And when I say that, I mean, I'm talking about like in the back of your mind as quarterbacks all over the league. Like this is a universal thing. They know in the back of their mind they can't be touched. They know that in the back of their mind they're not going to get hit.
Yeah.
They know in the back of their mind they're not going to be brought to the ground. Like there's nobody in the NFL, in the entire NFL, as from a quarterback that can tell you that they don't at least know that. They know that for a fact, because even if they don't acknowledge it, they subconsciously know that, hey, I'm not going to get touched. So I think that from a finality standpoint and looking at it and just saying, okay, finishing through the entire play, seeing the play and draw out in its entirety, and not saying, okay, all right, let me blow the whistle because all these defensive linemen are in my face, and versus, hey, I know if I don't get this ball out of my hands, this dude is going to take me to the ground. There's a difference between that and, hey, I'm gonna tap you on your shoulder because, hey, I got a sack. It's just different. So that's the part that I feel like I wanted to see, in the preseason, because, like I said, I even brought in examples, when we talked about this earlier, about how guys like Sam Howell was, out there getting all those reps in the preseason. And you have guys like even Patrick Mahomes was playing, in the preseason. So like he was dressed out in full pads, in the last preseason game. So it's just those type of things that I just look at and I'm just like, all right, I get the whole progression part. I get that. I saw it in the last 4 games, and I've seen him in practice. Like you can tell he got the command of the huddle and he got the respect of the defense and all that stuff. I see all that. But it's something different about saying, you know what? Either I took a sack on that play or I made a completion.
Yeah, you make excellent points. And one of the things I thought about, though, was Arthur Smith in this one area maybe being a little conservative, because you look at a non-contact injury like what happened to Jeff Okudah. Granted, it was in practice, but sometimes those things kind of play in a coach's head, and you never know. Maybe that was
he's human as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see, because we've got a little over 2 weeks. Well, maybe right around 2 weeks before the beginning of the season, where the Falcons will host the Panthers. So he'll have his hands full with Derek Brown and company. So we shall see whether or not 9 is really ready. So saying that, that's what we think. But what do you guys think? We always ask you guys to drop something in the chat on YouTube. So drop it in today. Is there some player also that you feel like maybe the Falcons should part ways with? Or is there a player from that 2021 draft that you're saying, yeah, I need to see this specifically from that particular player? Let us know. And of course, don't forget to download ATL Day Ones wherever you download your podcasts.
But T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down on the show. Today is no different. T, when you think about like companies that, do things for employees that have been around for a long time, been consistent, always on time, exemplify what you want in an employee. If you can hire that one person 45 times, you would absolutely do it. But it seems like Burger King, they don't understand what that is, because we had a man, had worked for Kevin Ford, had shared a video of the goodie bag that he got for 27 years of service at Burger King. It consisted of candy, pens, and a coffee mug, T, for 27 years of service. What the hell?
So this reminds me of videos that I watch on Instagram constantly, because I love little kids. The little babies are so cute. So Likewise. It reminds me of when the baby's parents try to feed them something, and because they can't speak yet, they just choose an action. And their action is typically, when they don't like the food, they throw it away, like literally across the room, and don't give a darn where it lands. Right. As a father of 2, if they don't want it, they push it off that tray or they throw it across the room. And that's your indication. Don't come at me with this foolishness. That is what, if Kevin Ford had done that, none of us would be mad. Like literally, if he would have walked off the job that day, none of us would have been mad. And he probably could have gone anywhere, McDonald's, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, down the street, and gotten a job there and been quite fine and probably treated much better at a Chick-fil-A, just to be honest with you, with 27 years, because I know a friend of mine who worked there 30 years. And granted, she worked in the corporate office, but I can tell you that they treat all of their employees with so much respect. But thankfully, internet moms, dads, aunties, uncles, cousins, and the like came to the rescue because they dropped, what was it, $100,000 that they were able to raise for him to treat him like you deserve to be treated.
$420,000.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it started right. So it started at $100,000, and then all of a sudden, when people got wind of it, you're right. It
went crazy.
To 427, and I'm like, you know what? Or 25. This is a good thing because hopefully this should show corporate Burger King, because they don't want to be shamed on social media, that they should actually come through and do something. As well.
Come back. You need
to come back.
Give him $1,000 for every year that he's all gone. What's $27,000 to a giant? Like a fast food giant, like that I don't go to anymore.
Right. I mean, even if it was, no, I agree with you. Like that's the kind of thing that makes you not want to go. Like you're Burger King is kind of already on
shaky. It's on shaky ground.
Fast food, yeah. Because let's face it, that's kind of the fast food restaurant you go to, and there's never a line in drive-through. Just saying. So, they're not quite where.
Consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Consistently, you see no one. So they're not exactly a franchise, a fast food franchise that needs to have bad press, right? This is not good press. This is not good press at all, because we all know 9 times out of 10, especially like a McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A or even a Subway, probably would have had some fun with it. And it would have gone different. You're not in a position to have bad press. So here's the thing, Jarvis. I felt 2 entities. Number one, that manager / or GM at the local level. What are you thinking? Or maybe 3, because it's him notifying the owner of that particular franchise branch and corporate. Because you all know, you keep records of when people hit milestones, 10, 15, 20, 25, 27 years.
And never missed a day.
Never missed a day? Corporate. Corporate. I blame you too.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of social media, right? We always talk about, or everybody talk about, man, social media is terrible for America. This is one of the beauties of, of social media, because his daughter, they initially wanted to just, get some money so he can go see his kids, in Texas or whatever. And then this is the Burger King in Las Vegas and national airport, excuse me. So when you have that, and just to go from basically $200 to $420,000, that has to be I know this man, he probably didn't, let's be honest, you probably didn't even make that, probably,
across those 27 years.
Across those 27 years. So to be able to get that in one whop, man, oh my God. Exactly. First of all, congratulations to you, Mr. Ford. And secondly, go and get your financial advisor, sir. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Go ahead and get right.
Great point. Because you know what? Hey, a lot of, especially basketball players and you don't hear so much about baseball players, but basketball players who are one and done or right. They're guaranteed money. It's like, why
they lay low.
Why get a financial advisor when, hey, your money doesn't go anywhere anyway? But basketball players, NBA money is very much close to guaranteed, unless you're Jalen Brown. It's all guaranteed. But we say that to say you see so many of them at 18 and 19 go from having nothing to having everything. And then you hear those horror stories about what happens, that aftermath. So you make a great point. Don't be like the NBA players. Be like the MLB players and some of the really smart NFL players in going ahead and investing that money and doing something good with it so that you can change the generations behind you. So speaking of change, we hope that the Braves change it up from what they did last night and get back on track with what they do tonight against the Colorado Rockies. It's the beginning of a 3-game series with Bryce Elder on the bump, and we are excited for it because we do know that these are the kind of pivotal games and the pivotal series that you need to have to stay ahead of the Dodgers in the race atop the National League. So we'll talk about that. Any other cuts that come down the pipeline ahead of 4 p.m. tomorrow for the Falcons, we'll bring that to you guys. And anything else that's happening on the sports scene here, we got you.
And last but not least, before we get up out of here, make sure you guys share love, show love, get them doggone money and stop being damn cheap, you fast food people, Let's spread some love.